Alright, in today's discussion, we're going to be talking about factoring a quadratic trinomial in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, we're going to look at our first example, and in this example, we're going to say the very last term is positive. So we're going to have 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. We want to factor this. So some tricks we learned in the last video. We know when we're setting up our factors, both are going to have a plus sign in the middle because we've got a positive c value and a positive b value. Now, something we have to be careful of this time is when we're putting our variables, our x's in, it's possible this time we're going to have a number that goes in front of x because we need those to multiply to make 2. So we still want to get numbers at the end that multiply to make 12. So whatever we're adding here at the end, they still need to multiply to make 12. But we've got this 2 now we have to keep in mind. So I'm going to show you this method called the AC slide. So if we consider that this quadratic trinomial is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, we're going to take the numbers that are in place of a and c, and we're going to multiply them. So we're going to go a times c. A times c, that's 2 times 12 in this case. We're going to get 24. So we want numbers that multiply to make 24, and then they add, their sum makes 11. So let's just think of numbers that multiply to make 24. I know 1 and 24 multiply to make 24. I know I could switch them. We could do 2 and 12. We could do 3 and 8, or 4 and 6. So we want to look at which combination of these, when we add them, adds to make 11. So if we went 1 plus 24, that's 25. Those factors aren't going to work. 2 plus 12, that's 14. Still too big. 3 and 8, that's 11. I think those will work. Because if we still check 4 and 6, that's 10. Those ones won't work. So this is what we're going to do when we're setting our factors up. In both sets, we're going to go 2x, and then in one of them, we're going to put a plus 3, and then in the other set, we're going to go 2x plus 8. Now, this is not our final answer, because if we were to FOIL this, we would end up getting 4x squared, and we don't want that. But if we look at this second binomial we have, 2 and 8, they're both divisible by 2. So we're going to do that. We're going to divide a 2 out there. We're not going to write it anywhere else, but we're going to divide it out. So we're going to rewrite our first factor, 2x plus 3. And then when we divide that 2 out, we're going to end up with an x plus 4. Now we can FOIL this to check our work. And I'm going to FOIL the first one and the second one to see how they are different. So if we went 2x times 2x, that's going to give us 4x squared. That's already not right. But if we went 2x times 8, that's going to be 16x. 3 times 2x gives us a 6x. And 3 times 8 is going to give us 24. So we're going to end up with 4x squared plus 22x plus 24. That's not what we started with. Let's check the other one. If we went 2x times x, we get 2x squared. If we go 2x times 4, we get 8x. 3 times x gives us 3x. And 3 times 4 gives us 12. If we combine the x terms, the middle terms, we're going to end up with 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. That's what we started with, which means 2x plus 3 times x plus 4 are our factors, and that's our answer. Let's look at another example, still example 1, but this time it's example 1b, and this quadratic is going to be 5x squared minus 14x plus 8. So, in this case, we still have a plus at the end. When we're setting our factors up, we're going to have something times x. We take the middle term now in both factors, minus something, something times x minus something. Now we're going to do the AC slide again. We're going to go 5 times 8, so A times C, 5 times 8 is 40, and then they have to add their sum, has to make negative 14. So, we're just going to write factors we know make 40. We've got 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 doesn't go into 40, but 4 does, 4 and 10, 5 and 8 go into 40, and I think that's it. If we add 1 and 40, we're going to get 41. Even if both are negative, that's not going to make 14. 2 and 20, if we add them, makes 22. That's not what we want. 4 and 10, though, they do make 14. 5 and 8, that's 13. That's not what we want. So what we're going to do in both factors is we're going to put 5x. We're going to take A and put it there, minus 4, and 5x minus 10. Now, in the first set, or my first factor, 5x minus 4, there's nothing in common. But in the second one, both terms are divisible by 5. So I'm going to divide them both by 5. So my answer is going to end up being 5x minus 4 times x minus 2. And that's our answer. So let me sum up what we just did. We did a process called the AC slide, and there's some steps to it. The first thing we did is we multiply A and C, so the numbers in place of A and C. Then we look for factors, look for numbers that can multiply to make our product, A times C. And within that, there's a condition. They need to also add to make B. Once we do that, we set up two factors in the form AX plus something and AX plus something else. It might be minus if B was minus. And then we factor out a GCF from the factor that has a GCF. That's all we did. So now I want to also look at another example where this process will still work. We might have to keep in mind some of the rules we learned in the last video, because these next examples, we'll call it example 2, are going to have C be negative. So, for example, we've got 4y squared plus 7y minus 2. We're still going to do the AC slide, but this time, based off of our rules or hints we learned in the last video, we're going to have one factor that is x plus and one factor that has x minus. So, AC slide. We're going to go 4 times negative 2. We're going to get negative 8. And then we need to add to make positive 7. So I'm going to take numbers that I know, multiply to make 8. Like 1 and 8, 2 and 4, and that's it. Now, here's what we need to look for. One of the numbers is going to be negative, one's going to be positive. I don't really care which one is which. We're just going to look now, if we made, say, the factors of 8 on the left negative, we just want to see, do they add somehow to make a 7? If I had a negative 1 and a positive 8, that makes 7. So to me, we're done. We don't have to check out the 2 and the 4, but if we did, a negative 2 and a 4, that's going to make 2. So here we've got a 7, here we had a 2. We don't want a 2. So now when we're setting up our factors, we're going to have 4y. In fact, up at the top I put x's right here. In this case, this expression has y's for the variable, so we just replace x with y. We're going to have a 4y with a 1 and a 4y with an 8. Now, in the last video, we did learn that the bigger number is going to take the middle sign. So in this case, 8 is bigger. We're going to have the plus sign with the 8, the minus with the 1. We're going to still, just like in the last example, look, do we have a factor, either this first one, 4y minus 1, or 4y plus 8, where there's something in common? I do know 4 and 8 are both divisible by 4, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to divide by 4. So my answer is going to have 4y minus 1 times, if I divide 4y by y, I get y, plus 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 4y minus 1, y plus 2. Let's check out another one. Still within example 2, but this time we're in example 2b. We're going to have 4x squared plus 19x minus 5. So again, when we're setting up the factors, we're going to have something times x plus something, something times x minus something. Because we've got a minus at the end, we're going to have a plus and a minus in our factors. So, AC slide, we're going to take 4 times negative 5. That gives us negative 20, and we want to add to make 19. So when I'm setting up my factors of negative 20, I know 1 times 20 makes 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Now again, I'm just going to use the left side to make my negatives. All I'm checking right now, which of these sets of factors can make 19. Negative 1 and 20, if one of them is negative, we're going to get 19. So this one to me says it's the right one. If I did negative 2 and 10, they add to make 8. That's not what we're looking for. If we added negative 4 and 5, they add to make 1. Again, not what we're looking for. So we're going to set up our two factors. We're going to take a times x, so 4x. We're going to have a 1, and we're going to have a 4x with a 20. Now the bigger number, 1 versus 20, is going to take the middle sign. Since our middle sign is a plus, the 20 gets a plus, and the 1 gets a minus. Now, I also notice that 4x plus 20, both terms are divisible by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4. So when I look at my factors, I'm going to have 4x minus 1 and x plus 5. And then we're done. Let's look at one. I've got two more examples, but I've got one more in this example too. So to C, we've got 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. So again, we've got a minus at the end, so our factors are going to end up having something times x plus something and something times x minus something. We do our AC slide. We go 2 times negative 15, we get negative 30, and we want them to add to make negative 7. So I'm just worried about what numbers multiply to make 30 right now. I know 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. And I'm just going to use the left side to make my negatives, because all I'm worrying about is if I combine a negative 1 and a 30, does it make negative 7? Answer is no, it makes 29. Even if I switched the negatives, made it positive 1, negative 30, then it would just be negative 29. With the 2 and the 15, we'd end up with a 13. Even if we switch the negatives, then we just have a negative 13. That's not what we want. If we want negative 3 and 10, that makes 7, which is close. We want negative 7. If we switched the negative, make it positive 3 and negative 10, then we'd have a negative 7. So we could think 3 and 10 work. If we did negative 5 and 6, somehow we'd get a 1 or a negative 1. So that one doesn't work. The factors we're going to use are 3 and 10. So we set up our parentheses. We go 2x. We've got a 3. We've got 2x and a 10. The bigger number is going to take the middle sign, and our middle sign is negative, and that's going to go with the 10. So 2x minus 10, 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3, there's nothing in common there, but 2 and 10 are both divisible by 2. So in the second factor, we can divide by 2. We're going to end up with 2x plus 3 times x minus 5. We're almost done. I've got one more example. And in example 3, we're going to explore what happens if we have a be negative. So negative 2x squared minus 15x minus 7. Now the first thing I would actually do, take out a negative 1. So we're going to have negative 1. That just means change the sign of everything. So all negatives become positives, and all positives become negatives. So we're going to have negative 1 times 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. And then we've got a problem just like what we've been doing. We do our AC slide. 2 times 7 is 14. We want to add to make 15. Well, we know 1 and 14 make 14, and so do 2 and 7. If we add them, 1 and 14 make 15. That could work. 2 and 7 make 9. That doesn't work. So we set up our factors. We've got our negative in front. We're going to have 2x plus 1, and then 2x plus 14. But I know in the second one, I can divide both things by 2. So we're going to have a negative out front, then 2x plus 1 times x plus 7. And we're done. That wraps up our lesson on factoring quadratics or trinomials in the form ax squared plus bx plus c.